The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike three, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
And welcome to Baseball Beer and Barbecue with Ted, Todd, and Lee. Like us on Facebook, follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ, and read us on our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com, and get even more info at thehappyhournetwork.com. We'll be joined in just a little bit by Chris Wassel, host of Fantasy Hockey X, writer for Dauber Hockey, Project Roto, and much, much more. And before Ted says who we have to thank, I think that we should introduce Ted the way he, needs to be introduced. Maybe every show, maybe even on his own show. But this is Ted's intro.
The very best at what he does each and every day of his life.
Woo! So there we go, Ted. What are we thinking today?
I guess you could thank me. After taking last week off, I'm sorry, fans. I know you were expecting to hear me last week. I was a little bit under the weather. This is all about me. This is my Kobe moment. All right. So, you can also...
Ted's taking 50 shots this show. 50 shots.
Yes,
Ted,
baby.
So.
Head out. All right. No, but you can thank our good friends at NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeartRadio app, I-95 Sports Network, Back Sports Pages, RF Sports, XRP Radio in the UK. Of course, you can listen to us across various platforms like iTunes and, as the aforementioned, iHeart. And we want to give a special shout-out to our friend Brian Snow at the Arena Sports Network. And I think Todd has a special friend he would like to thank.
Yes, I would like to thank the styling, profiling, limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, son of a gun, Ted Hicks.
Woo!
And I would also like to thank who will fix anything in your life that is broken. Marriage problems, dog poops on the carpet.
What?
House fires.
Disgusting.
Anything. As long as the computer caused it. Go to Computer Repair NC at CJ Computers NC 919-653-8496 for all your electronic device needs. And in fact, little known fact, the T1000 when it went haywire, they are the ones who actually stopped it. It was not Arnold. It was Computer Repair NC.
And coincidentally enough, Todd talked about marriage and CJ Computer NC fixing your computer. This part of the program is sponsored by Ashley Madison. So let's get straight into baseball talk. The Padres, of course, the Padres got shut out on Thursday. Not a big surprise. Fifth time in their first 10 games. I think I jokingly said last week that the Padres were shut out first 3 games of the season. And the Dodgers shut them out, but does it really matter because it was the Padres? I was joking, but maybe I guess I wasn't joking, as it turns out. 5 times the first 10 games, first team ever. What's wrong with the Padres, guy? I mean, I know they were lousy last year, but at least they had some decent hitters. It was more the park that they're playing in. Is that the issue, or do they just suck for years now?
It's the fact that they went back to those retro uniforms on Sundays.
Totally. It's the unis.
They stink.
Yeah. Some people like mustard, but the Padres don't like mustard. They're pretty horrible. Thank God for the Phillies.
What's going on with the Phillies obviously led by the ace of the staff, and he's supposed to be the ace, 23-year-old kid, but nobody expected him to do what he did on Thursday. Vince Velasquez, of course, who we're talking about. 16 strikeouts, no walks in the shutout. Only the 7th pitcher ever to have 16 gain, no walks in a complete game shutout. He can't keep this. The Phillies can't keep up their 500 record. I mean, they're lousy at this point. They should be lousy, but so far this season they're not. But this kid, he may be the real deal, right? I mean, he's pitched 2 games so far. Hasn't given up a run this year. And the Phillies are they're not 500 anymore. They're 5-6, but they're tied. They're actually a half game ahead of the Mets, I think. Although ESPN has them tied for some reason. It's early in the season. It doesn't matter. I know what you're going to say. Hold on, Ted. We did this pre-pro, and Ted started to interrupt me. But let me see if I can get everything pulled back up here while I'm doing this extremely long segue. And I apologize to everybody for me doing this. But Ted was about to interrupt me, and I need to say this to Ted.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
So back to what I was saying. Vince
Reminder.
Velasquez. Is he really that good, or is it just that he was, first of all, going up against the Padres? But he's supposed to be good, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to be really good. He's not 16K and no walk good because nobody is. But yeah, he is supposed to be good, and he will be good. I mean, on that team, what'll be interesting is if he can break the fabulous record of the great Steve Carlton, which he's not going to do. He's not going to win 27. That would be sweet, though, wouldn't it? It would be interesting to see what percentage of wins of the team that this kid gets. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got like 40% of their wins by the end of the season.
Vince couldn't carry Steve Carlton's jockstrap. This is too soon.
Oh yeah.
It's too soon.
Oh yeah. I'm just talking about it'd be interesting to see, if he piles up 15 wins and the rest of the staff gets 15.
Which is, it's possible. But I mean, this kid is 23. I mean, he definitely has. He is expected to be the ace of a staff that's not a very good staff in the first place. But Ted, I mean, and you're right, it is too soon to give this guy the Cy Young, obviously. But it was a great thing he did the other day, right?
No, it was a great thing. And as you know, the Phillies whipped on the Mets 2 out of 3 last week. And I'm going to go out on a ledge right here, and you guys are going to laugh at me. Watch out for the Phillies next year. Because, as you know, that the trade for when they got rid of Hamill, that was their Herschel Walker moment. Watch out for that, because what you're seeing now is they stink for the next few years, and then all these prospects are going to start to come back, and they're going to start to show up. Look for the Phillies. I mean, I truthfully think Phillies will win 70 games this season.
So what you're saying is the Phillies-Rangers trade of last year is the Rams-Titans trade?
Yes. Yes.
I would chortle here, except I think you're right, Ted. I mean, they've got a lot of good young talent. They're a little ways away, but think of a couple teams we were talking about that way just 2 seasons ago. Well, I don't know, maybe teams like the Astros. So, yeah, absolutely.
And you remember what Murph said last year, right?
No, I don't. Right? Tell me. No, tell me. Tell me what Murph said.
Something?
Murph said something last year. No, but I think Vince is going to be. He's going to be a good one. He's really going to be a good one, and it's just it's good for a team like the Phillies because, like I said, they've stunk for a while, and I like to see. I mean, you as you know, we're NL people, and I mean, except for Todd, he's Detroit, but
I'm not people anyway, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. But what I'm saying here is, I like to see a competitive NL East. I don't want it to just be Nationals and Mets. I'd love to see the Marlins also be competitive, and along with the Phillies in the years to come.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good division. The Nationals won't be going away. I mean, they're willing to spend money, and the team they have obviously some still good young talent. It's a matter of they probably overpaid for their pitching staff, but they're actually playing. The Nationals are the way we expected them to play last year, so far this year.
Right.
And they still have the pitching. But yeah, if the Phillies improve and the Mets aren't going anywhere, obviously that could be the best division in baseball in 2 years. But one guy for the Nationals, Bryce Harper, hits I believe it was his 800th home run in his career. He's only 23. 8th fastest ever to get to 800 home runs. So
800. Wow.
Is this? It's funny because it's. I think too much was expected of him at a young age, and then last year, of course, he was, crazy good. Starting from last year, are we going to see this kid be, the National League face of baseball, where Mike Trout and it's Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper's finally the rival to Mike Trout that we all expected him to be for the last. Feels like he's been playing 18 years, but he's only 23 years old. Has Harper finally turned the corner, and this is the kid who's going to be finishing first or second in the Cy Young like Trout is in the National League every year?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. It's and like you said, he's just 23, and a lot of players would just be coming up, and this kid's got he's already got 10 years in, so he can veto any trade. It seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, 8th fastest ever, like you said, to 100. It's kind of surprising that he's only the 8th fastest. And that's just because, according to expectations and according to Trout, judging by Trout's career so far, I mean, that's the only way he's a disappointment. So, yeah, there's no reason to think he won't be the face of the National League, just like Trout has been.
I want to debate you on this, Mr. Vandenberg.
Please do, sir.
He will be the face of the American League when he goes to the New York Yankees, because they're going to pay $800 million for him.
No, they won't pay $800. They're not going to go over $720. Everybody knows that. Yeah, good point. Good point. It's probably what will happen.
We talk about him being the 8th fastest, but really it's because he was injured. So he only played 100 games in 2013. So far this season, he's only batting .313 with 4 home runs. Yeah, his OPS is actually higher than so far. Of course, it's 9 games in, but his OPS is higher than it was. His OPS last year sounds ridiculous, but it was 1.109. This year it's 1.217. So, yeah, he's having an off season so far. But I mean, it's good that he has character, and baseball need characters desperately, I think, at this point, because it's such a team sport. You can pitch. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, football, basketball, and the basketball's not even. It's a team sport, but one person can make such a big difference. But people say, oh, football is a team sport. In baseball, they can pitch around you. If you're so good, they'll just pitch around you. They take you out of the game. So baseball is the ultimate team sport. But to me, what'd you say? Did you say it's very possible?
I said that's Barry Bonds. Yeah, they can pitch around you. Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Barry Bonds. I forgot how many intentional walks he actually had a couple of years in a row.
Todd, I thought you said that's what the Republicans did to Obama.
They tried.
That's basically what they are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's ridiculous. The funny thing is, and we're not going to spend time on, but the Republican Party is really at its apex of having not people as far as president, but in Senate, Congress, and states. I mean, we'll hold off and have the next president. The next president could be a Democrat, and you could be running the risk of having a lot more Democrats in Congress by that time.
Yep.
I don't really know what they're waiting for. They could totally screw themselves, and I hope they do. But looking at Major League Baseball, of course, the Orioles off to a hot start, 8-2. They lead everybody else in the division by 14 games already. It's not even mathematically possible, but that's what I'm saying. The Red Sox are 5-4, and Tampa Bay. I mean, it's so early in the season. The White Sox and Royals tied at 8-2. The Royals won 4 in a row. White Sox won 5 in a row. And, actually, this could be. We talked about it before the season. The White Sox they've got potential. Maybe actually they'll be the team that exceeds expectations this year, right?
Possible.
That's the best answer ever. It's very short. I feel like we're watching the Muppet Christmas Carol, and Fozziwig gives that, Fozziwig's boss. This is way off a limb, I know that, but Fozziwig's boss gives that very short speech, and the two guys in the balcony are like, "That's horrible. It was short. We loved it." So the Twins are right where we thought they'd be at 1-9. That's not true. The Twins are 1-9. What an awful start. I was a guest on Sean Stewart's show, and he asked me who he thought would win first, the Twins or the Braves. My answer was it's baseball. Anybody can win in one game, but they ended up winning on the same day. Both teams 1-9.
Too bad they weren't playing each other.
Exactly. The Braves are 10 games in, and they're 7.5 back. So that sounds like a joke, but it's not. And then the Cubs lead the Cardinals by 2 games, and the Pirates by 3.5. The Pirates have lost 4 in a row. And then the Dodgers beat the Giants last night, so they actually have a half-game lead over the surprising Colorado Rockies. And then the Padres have won somehow 3 games. They've scored a total of 30. Oh, because they had that one game, right, where they scored 13 runs or something. The first game in the series after the Dodgers, so who knows. So that's the standings for a baseball. So just real quick, what's the most surprising and disappointing teams to each of you so far?
No team surprised me. I'm not disappointed in any teams whatsoever. I will leave this to Ted, but I do want to throw in, I mentioned last week that Bill James had done a study about slow starts and does it really matter and blah, blah, blah. And I pulled up an article that John Doohan, who is an excellent statistician, he did a study over 10 years. I'm not going to run through all the numbers. But basically, the teams that started out with 3 wins or less in their first 10 games, over this 10-year, only 4 of those teams out of 44 managed to wind up with 90 wins. So 9%. If you get off to a slow start, you're screwed. Basically what that means. It's not too likely that you're going to pick it up and make the playoffs or see 90 wins. And on the flip side, if you win a hell of a lot of games, that doesn't necessarily mean you're in great shape, because 46 teams in those 10 years won between 7 and 10 games. Great start, right? 7 wins out of 10 or up to 10 out of 10. Less than half of those teams wound up with 90 wins. So you can't just kick back and think, man, we got a great team. Odds are you don't. But if you start out really bad, odds are overwhelmingly in the favor of the fact that, yes, you really do suck. So enjoy the season, Twins and Braves fans. Enjoy, because it's not going to get any better.
Yeah, well, the Braves are expected to suck, right? I mean, the Twins were actually pretty good last year. For the Twins, for what we expected, they were pretty good last year. But the Braves, oh, man. Wow.
Hey, that's right. They may combine for 100 wins. That's an awesome season.
That's right.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Twins might have 80 of those. Yeah, the Twins,
out of the 2 teams, the Twins are much more likely to bounce back and be one of that small percentage that has a good season. Very true.
Before we get into other news, I was at the touring version of Book of Mormon last week in Knoxville, Tennessee. It was a very fun show. If anybody can see it, you should go see it, because if you don't find the show to be fun, then something is probably wrong in your life, and I mean that sincerely, and I feel bad for you. But we're going to take a little 50-second musical interlude before we get to the other news, and then we're going to be joined by Chris Wassel to talk NFL. So here's a little snippet from Book of Mormon.
What did Jesus do when they sentenced him to die? Did he try to run away? Did he just break down and cry? No, Jesus dug down deep, knowing what he had to do. When faced with his own death, Jesus knew that he had to man up. He had to man up. So he crawled up on that cross and he stuck it out. And he manned up. Christ, he manned up. And taught us all what real manning up is about.
And you know who else manned up this week? Kobe Bryant in his final game, scoring 60 on 50 shots. So, Ted,
wow.
What's your take on Kobe scoring 60 in his final game and taking 50 shots? I believe that was all in the first quarter. Ted has left the show.
No, I'm back. I'm back.
Ted was offended by Kobe.
That's right.
It's been a rough week for me. I'm sorry. You got Kobe and a few other things, and Lee, that was very interesting.
Oh, thank you. I didn't write it or perform in it, but I appreciate the compliment either way.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that Kobe is the cross that the Lakers have borne for the past couple seasons?
Oh, goodness. Thank God it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to be a better team when he's not. No offense to Kobe. He, early in his career, for most of his career, he was a great player. He's no longer a great player. And he seems to be like people didn't want to play with him. Or, he wanted to be the guy on the team even when he was way past his prime and other players didn't want to join the team. So he has held the team back. It's not even the money. It's his attitude, to be honest.
Yeah.
Is he a great player all time? Yeah, he's a great player. He's not the best player ever. I find it coincidental that he always wanted to be Michael Jordan, and yet he finishes one championship short of even Jordan. It was almost like that's how it was meant to be. But, I mean, Kobe's a great player, but, yeah. Just think how good the Lakers probably will be in 2 or 3 years. They may be contending again the way the NBA works with the salary cap, right?
You got – there's an issue. Because you have to be that performer at the apex of your skill set when you're chewing up 30% of the salary cap. When one player that's making $24.9 million and the salary cap, I mean, I know they don't have a salary cap because they can go over because of luxury tax, but when one player is making let's just say $25 million, and and their budget is $90 for the year, there's an issue. And you're 37 and you can't get any of the premier stars to come join you. That says it all.
And you're not just chewing up that big a percentage of the money, he's chewing up a huge percentage of the scoring opportunities too.
That's true.
And, occasionally, like on his miraculous 22 of 50 night when he threw up 60 for his last game, I mean, man, it's kind of amazing that they won that game. Of course, the Jazz was out, so they don't care. I mean, it's
right.
It's fitting that he scored 60 and he shot terribly. I mean, I've never liked Kobe because of the attitude. I mean, yeah, terrific player as far as on the court, but it was always someone and Kobe. Basically, it wasn't Kobe and someone else. He's a prick. I don't care if he's on his final hurrah public relations tour. Hey, suddenly I'm a nice guy. I've been a prick for 19 years. Now I'm a nice guy. No, you're not. You're not a nice guy. You're a prick.
Yeah.
So enjoy your 60. Enjoy your retirement. Enjoy your plaque in the Hall of Fame because he deserves it. And he's not like Barry Bonds because he didn't cheat to get there. But he reminds me a lot of Barry Bonds. He's like the Barry Bonds of the NBA. He's like hell of a player, and even an even bigger prick than he is a player. So. Bye, Kobe.
Right.
Over the last 2 seasons, I think he might have played a total of 70 games, and he made $50 million. So they gave him his loyalty package, his retirement fund, and all the above. It's great. Right. Kobe, you're great. We love you. Don't come back. and I don't want to see you as an analyst on TNT or ESPN. Thank you.
Yeah. And ship a few of those millions over to that lady in Denver. You probably owe her more money.
Oh.
Anyway, by the way, our guest next week is Kobe Bryant. And, no, I'm just kidding. So
that would be awesome.
I'll say this. Kobe's teams maybe won for the majority of his career more games because he was a great player. He didn't make the teams better. That was the difference to me. Jordan made his teams better. I mean, he was on the team, and that made the team better. But he also made his teammates better. And so, even Steve Kerr says that. Hey, Jordan was sometimes a total asshole to me, but I was a better player because of it. So, it is what it is. So it's interesting. So the NFL schedule came out.
Yay!
The Dolphins play at the Seahawks in Week 1, and I believe the Jets. I'm trying to talk Ted into letting me stay at his house, but Ted's like, "No, we're coming to Tennessee this year. I'm not going to see any Jets game. I'm not." In fact, I said, "Ted, hey, the Seahawks are coming to the Jets. any way we can get tickets and maybe I can hang at your house. And he said, you know what? I'm not even a Jets fan anymore. And who is this?
I have to hijack the show right now because I am working on something so big that when I get Lee and Todd up here for Seahawks and Jets, it's going to be the masses. So, long story short, I'm just trying to. I'm also scheduled to be at Raiders at Ravens that same weekend. I'm trying to see if we can find some happy medium. Everyone just goes to Seahawks and Jets game, and I'll be a happier person.
Who would you rather see, Raiders and Ravens or Jets and Seahawks?
Jets and Seahawks, hands down, but one of my buddies is a Raiders fan, and, you know, whenever the Raiders come to see the Jets or the Giants, I usually go with them.
So it's Baltimore. You've been to Baltimore, right?
I've been to Baltimore. I've seen The Wire.
Hey, I've seen every single John Waters film too. That doesn't make me like Baltimore more.
Right.
So it is what it is. But no, and you know, there's Todd Dolphin. And the Dolphins should be. I say this every year, and it's not because. This is the officially the 20th year that I have now known Todd.
Really?
Yeah, I have known Todd for 20 years. But
are you about to say the Dolphins should be good this year? Are you actually going to let those words come out of your mouth?
They're going to be 0-2 after those first 2 weeks.
Did you see who they signed for running backs after they swing and a miss at like virtually every running back in the league?
No shot?
They signed Daniel Thomas.
Oh, God.
Who they had gotten rid of before, and I don't remember the guy's name because it's so irrelevant. Daniel Thomas wasn't even in the league last year, and this guy, Pede, whatever the hell his name is, who has been in the league for 5 years and has 79 yards.
Oh.
Yards. And so, you know, it's like, this is their backup. Because we don't need Lamar Miller, which they didn't need Lamar Miller because they wouldn't let him run the ball anyway, so you might as well let him go. You weren't using him anyway, jerkwads. I mean, that guy's, he'll be fantastic because he's got plenty of tread on the tires, so, you know, it's like, God. Yeah, I'm happy about the coach. I think the coach will work out well, but they signed those two idiots, and I shouldn't call them idiots, but they're going to be trash. They signed those two guys on March 31st, and I thought, it's an early April Fool's joke. They didn't really sign a guy who hasn't been in the league for a year, and a guy with 79 yards in his career, did they? Yeah, they did. That's good, man. Like, holy crap. Unbelievable.
The Seahawks offensive line doesn't yet make collectively $10 million. So,
wow.
You know, I don't know. Hopefully this draft, it'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft. And obviously, we get to, you know, it gets to be near training camp and teams make other cuts, and maybe the Seahawks have always been a patient team. Will wait and wait and wait. And obviously the defense is there. But the defense, I feel like, Todd, I'm trying to talk you into saying, hey, your team's better. But the defense should be good, right? You can win on defense.
Yeah, ask the Broncos. You can win on defense.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
my God.
True.
So, I mean, do the Dolphins and Jets play in week 2?
No,
is that why you
Patriots. Patriots.
Okay. I wondered why Ted
Dolphins play.
Start 0-2.
Yeah, because they play in England. That's the thing.
Are you kidding me?
It was funny. I laughed because I was in my mind. I was quickly trying to think. There's got to be a positive to this. No, there's no positive.
Are you kidding me?
Do they play at New England?
Yeah, they play in New England week 2.
They start at Seattle and at New England.
They start at Seattle and start. Yeah, I mean it's a tough way to start the schedule, but you know a lot of teams have a tough. You know, Dallas has 3 games in 12 days at one point. I mean, you know, it's you got to play the schedule. So it's like take care of business, lose to Seattle like you're supposed to, and then finally pull your britches up and beat the freaking Patriots up there. So you know, do your job. You start off 1-1.
Yeah,
and I think they actually have a good chance at that.
Wait, are tickets already available? Can you already buy NFL tickets?
If they are available, it just happened yesterday. It wasn't possible. Well, the Seahawks the Seahawks have a lottery because the season ticket holders hold so much, and then the individual tickets are on a lottery. So you kind of just have to, unless you.
Here's the weird thing. I looked at the Jets site yesterday because I know you don't really care, Ted. So I looked at the Jets site myself. And tickets to the Cleveland game in Cleveland were available. there were like 3 games available, and Cleveland was one of them. And it was $63. I was like, you kidding me?
Wow!
For an NFL,
$63 in Cleveland.
$63 in Cleveland. It's like, what? That's parking in most places. That's not a ticket. No. Like, oh my God!
I'm sure I've said this before 100 times. To park at Yankee Stadium is $45.
That's crazy. Well, I believe our guest is on the line, so we now welcome Chris Wassel to the show. Chris is host of Fantasy Hockey X, writer for Dauber Hockey, Project Roto, and much, much more. Chris has been on with us several times. It's always fantastic to talk NHL. Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing very good, guys. How are you doing?
Well,
Pretty good.
I'll be honest. I am doing better after last night. So let's...
Wait. Upon further review, are you sure about that?
Well, very funny. Yes. I'll take what I can take. So the defending champion Blackhawks, of course, I have to start with my own team. I've had a kind of an odd year because Patrick Kane has been great, and Taves has not been really he's been good, but he's not been Taves-esque. And Duncan Keith, of course, had a freak-out moment and had a suspension. Of course, he's back, scored a goal last night, thank goodness. Is this team at all, because it's so difficult to repeat in the NHL, is this team at all ready to repeat compared to the rest of the strong Western Conference?
Well, I mean, look at it this way. We presume, and the keyword is presume here, that they are eventually going to get better against St. Louis. We hope. But no, it does speak a lot to how hard it really is to repeat in this day and age NHL. I mean, look, did anybody expect it to be an easy road? No. Did anybody expect, I don't know, Chicago needing the hand of God last night to win? Probably not. Whether it's fair or not, look, it was the right call. That St. Louis fans will insist this until they're dead. That wasn't the right call. But if you look based on some of the angles that we saw this morning, looking through, and somebody who might have leaked a certain NHL camera angle that wasn't supposed to, it was the right call. It's unfortunate. It does seem like this happens to St. Louis a lot. But look, St. Louis put themselves in this position by playing this wacky, we're just going to keep hitting until we can't hit anymore philosophy. And when you do that, eventually you have to start scoring. And when you don't score enough, you put yourself in this position. Look, Chicago will be able to get last line change, and when they go home for games 3 and 4, and I think that should make a difference. So for the Chicago fans that may be kind of on the ledge a little bit, it's okay to take a step back.
And for those who don't know, actually Diego Maradona scored a goal last night. No, I'm just kidding. Hand of God. I had to make that joke. So, it's funny because the Blues were first game when it was 1-0, and the Blues easily could have lost that because the Blackhawks had some really good scoring chances. But when I talk to other hockey fans, they're always the Blues are usually really good every year, but then never seem to make the Stanley Cup. But do you think this current Blues team has enough to win a Stanley Cup?
That's the frustrating thing. I think, to be honest, if they didn't run into Chicago every year or L.A., the answer probably would be yes. They would at least be in the conversation of teams that should be able to make a deep run. But because they seem to just, in their case, they did it to themselves. All they needed to do was finish first in the division. They would have gotten maybe the most punchless team in the playoffs, the Minnesota Wild, but they found a way not to get enough points, and it's their own doing. It comes down to they have a pretty solid power play. They have a very good penalty kill. They have a goalie in Brian Elliott that has been there before and has played lights out, by the way. That's something that's been lost in all of this. he's given up 2 goals and one, well, okay, maybe a little questionable, but I don't worry about that stuff. But the bottom line is he's shown that he belongs as a playoff goalie, at least as of this moment. Look, Western Conference Series, the last few years have been a different animal, and most people just sit there and they look at, it was a 4-3 game and the goaltenders were really bad. No, it's not the case. It's just that the chances are really good. The quality play is usually a lot higher than this series is presented, and I think as the series goes on, you'll see a higher quality of play.
Hey, Chris, this is Todd. I am infamous for not knowing much, and I know even less about NHL, but I am contractually obligated to be on the show. So Lee was good enough to give me questions without any names, so I can say things like Dallas. So Dallas Stars, they got a ton of offensive talent. Playoffs are usually lower scoring, of course, unlike, maybe not lately. But the Stars, do they have the defense and the goaltending to make a deep run?
Luckily for them, they have 2 things going for them. One, they can beat the Blackhawks, although you never know what translates from the regular season to the postseason. And 2, they have Minnesota's number, and in a bad way. I mean, look, even if Minnesota had been healthy, they would have had a huge uphill battle against Dallas. Psychologically, there's something with Minnesota playing Dallas in the last couple seasons in particular, where 3-goal leads aren't safe, nothing is safe. And when you add in the fact that basically you have the better parts of a line completely out for Minnesota, and their offense has been starting to tail off the last few weeks anyway, that's an uphill battle. And you consider that their penalty kill was pretty subpar all season. We haven't even seen that from Dallas yet, and that's the fun part. Dallas has a very dangerous power play. Some guy named Sagan may play tonight. If I'm Minnesota, I'm investing in looking at that late week tea time as something very viable. Yeah, Dallas can make a deep run even with goaltending that could be considered less than average, because that's worked in the Western Conference the past few years. Your goaltending doesn't have to be great; it just has to be good enough at the right moments, and then great at the critical points.
Which makes sense. And you say Dallas and Minnesota, and instantly I'm thinking Cowboys-Vikings. I don't even watch that game. So Western Conference, bottom line, who's going to take the conference this year?
Let's see. Who crawls out alive? And that may be the key point here. God, I said Anaheim before the playoffs, and now it's like, God, can they survive a 7-game bloodfest with Nashville? I think they can. The problem then comes down to who survives from the quote-unquote Central Division. If it's Dallas, Anaheim probably makes it out of the West. If it's Chicago, I think somebody knows my answer to this. But because I put my foot in my mouth on a certain Sirius XM show or two, I do have to pick Anaheim to survive. Believe me, they're going to be very tired. I would be shocked if Anaheim, say, it took them anything less than 20 games to get through the 3 rounds. I really do think.
Wow.
At the very least, they're going to go 6 or 7 in every round.
Hey, Chris, this is Ted, your fellow tri-state partner up here. Happy to have you back on the show.
Thank you, Ted.
So I was given the most interesting question of the day. So my question is, there's some players like Pavel Datsyuk who seem to want to play in Russian, which makes sense as, he's Russian. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it comes down to, what does the guy have left to prove in the States? Nothing. He's won Stanley Cups. He's done everything that you could have asked him to do. He's 38 years old. He's losing teeth on the ice for you, like last night. I mean, if the guy wants to spend more time with his daughter, who is now a young teenager in Russia, I can completely understand that. He's doing not only is he doing the right thing, but he's doing the thing that he should be doing. which is what we should be praising in all of this, and not the fact that, God forbid, the Detroit Red Wings want them just basically milk him for another year. Is it going to leave the Red Wings in a bind? The Red Wings are already in a bind. I mean, it's just how it is. He has a hefty $7.5 million price tag for next year. I understand that. But he has done zero wrong here to deserve even the slight amount of backlash that he's been getting across the country and even in Canada, apparently. It really is no issue at all, Ted. It should not be.
And a question came in from some of our favorite Tamponians. The Lightning were in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, but as you know, they took a big hit when Steve Stamkos went down. Any chance they make a deep run without him?
You know what? Why the heck not? They are. You want to say sometimes it's good to be lucky. In Tampa's case, it really is. Tampa has an advantage against Florida, and they obviously have an advantage against Detroit. Detroit cannot stop Tyler Johnson and Nikita Kucherov at all. Look, Alex Cord is like the guy riding on the back of the horse, or the guy basically the third wheel that's just waiting for the scraps to come in. But Kucherov and Johnson are what make the Lightning go. I hate to say for Tampa fans, and they're going to get really mad when I say this, they don't need Steven Stamkos. They really don't. Steven Stamkos is just a bonus at this point. The only thing that Tampa really will miss Stamkos on, and it depends on when he comes back, of course. It could be late round 2. It could be round 3. Nobody really knows just yet. It all depends on how the blood clotting medication takes and such. But it's this. On the power play, when you're looking for a one-timer from the left side, that right-handed shot is not there from Tampa. They tried Drouin last night. It was obviously a lefty. It's hard to try a one-timer coming from the right-hand side if you're a lefty shot. So they do have to figure that out. They have to find a guy with a good enough shot there, but the only one is Drouin. That's one little area. But the bottom line is Tampa has enough depth to make a run, and they have enough depth, and they have a healthy Ben Bishop, which is the key here. Last year they didn't. They still got to the Stanley Cup final, and they still made life miserable for the Chicago Blackhawks, at least for the most part. Why not? Why couldn't they make a run? Their only weakness, they've gotten used to the fact that they have a 15 or 16% conversion rate for a power play anyway all year. So all it takes is a few extra lucky breaks, and they should be just fine.
Chris, your comments about Stamkos and his blood clots, the stock for Coumadin and the makers of it, they just gave you a shout out. It just went through the roof.
All right.
So the President's Trophy winners have not had great luck in winning a championship. Will the Capitals be different this year? Why or why not?
The why, yes, is simply because of how the Eastern Conference is set up. Fortunately for them, Washington's really only going to have they hope to have one major battle. It doesn't hurt that Philadelphia just lost Sean Couturier for the rest of the first round with a sprained shoulder. AC joint sounds boring for listeners. I understand that. But more importantly, Philly is eventually going to get into a game of chasing their tail where they're more interested in trying to inflict pain on Washington than actually trying to win games. All Washington has to basically do is play the way that the 2012 New Jersey Devils did against Philadelphia. You basically let them beat themselves. It is always, for the better part of the last 2 decades, guys, how do you beat Philadelphia in the playoffs? You don't give in to the way they play. And if Washington does that with just a little bit of this sort of, hey, showing them, hey, we can beat you. It's not a problem. And if we have to pummel you a little bit, we can do that too. That's fine. But you can't get completely suckered in. You can't have Alexander Ovechkin trying to throw haymakers on people. It's just not. It's just not good for the Capitals. But every advantage in this series pretty much tilts to Washington, and again with the Couturier injury, it tilts even more. What Couturier basically brought was that defensive center that could play basically against any top Washington player. And now that you don't have that, that's going to fall on guys that it shouldn't. And you figure Washington has that ability to get through there. Now, Pittsburgh is a different battle entirely. That's the one series that will give Washington the most fits, and then maybe the one that'll tilts this more to the why not. If you're a Capitals fan, as hard as this is to believe, and you hate facing the Rangers, you almost would rather want to face the Rangers at this point than the Penguins. The Penguins do stack up well. There is no question about that they do. The Penguins have unbelievable possession numbers over the last 50 games of the season. Their power play with it getting Malkin, who's supposed to return today, but that hasn't been decided just yet. It is a top 10 power play, probably top 5 in these playoffs. And that will give Washington fits. Holtby does not perform well against Pittsburgh. It's the one series that's a true cross-up, and it's really the only team that could stop Washington, to be honest.
Hey, Chris, this is Ted. I just have a statement that I want to make. General statement, just to let you know, I've held true, and I still haven't attended an Islanders game at Barclays Center. I'm holding out for hope. Any insight? I mean, this is a non-playoff related question, but any insight that you're hearing on, the I guess with Barclays Center and the Islanders not seeing eye to eye, and could they be headed for a breakup?
It's funny because since the story came out a few months ago, that all was not well in Brooklyn, or as I like to call it, the Rusty Chum Bucket. That's what it just reminds me. It just reminds me of that episode of SpongeBob way too much. I mean, it just looks like the Rusty. It just does. It seems like they've patched things up at least enough to make this work. I don't know how much pomp and circumstance is going to go into Game 3. I do know parts of what they're trying to do. Obviously, the Islanders are on WFAN, which I'm sure old hardened Ranger fans will just be so happy to hear that. It really does make them bitter, but they are going to put more promotional stuff into the arena for Game 3. I know there'll be a lot of Islander banners all over the place and the such, and that's all well and good. But the problems are still there, and whether it gets settled or not is really up in the air. It's something that's honestly it's a coin flip at this point as to whether they ultimately stay long term, but it still doesn't look great.
Okay, thank you.
And that is sad. Hey, Chris, who is your Hart Trophy winner this year?
It's not Patrick Kane.
Where's the mute button? Where's the mute button? I'm just kidding.
Not Patrick Kane. I can't do it. I just can't. You look, for all the problem is the perils of being in the media, guys, is this. You know a lot more than most people do, and the burden is you know a lot more than most people do. The irony in this, the more valuable player on that team may be the player that minds the nets, as opposed to Kane himself. I jokingly would give it to Panarin before I would give it to Kane, just because I think a lot of Kane's season is derived from Artemi Panarin playing on his wing. It's a weird balance when you get into this, because look, it's a slippery slope. I mean, if it was most valuable coach, it would be Mike Sullivan for the Penguins, because we've seen what's happened in Pittsburgh as a result. But I mean, Hart Trophy is generally for the most valuable player. If it's for the most outstanding player, it's Patrick Kane, hands down. But there's no question. But Chicago can win without Patrick Kane. Chicago can do a lot of things without Patrick Kane. I don't know if they can win the Stanley Cup without Patrick Kane, but it's the true meaning of the award. He's going to win it, guys. Let's just not kid ourselves here. But from an honest opinion, I mean, I look around and it's like, man, where would this team be without Corey Crawford, especially with how poorly Scott Darling played at the end of the year? If we can keep Crawford away from concerts and showers and stellar steps, we'll be good. But no, you guys are right. It is definitely it's Patrick Kane, but in my heart, it will always be Corey Crawford this year for what he's done for Chicago.
Yeah, but that does bring up an interesting question because it's what does most valuable mean, and different people interpret it different ways, and usually it's who has the best numbers, which doesn't at all necessarily translate to most valuable. So the big question is, I wish I had a drum roll, but Lee's too cheap to add one to the sound effect. So who wins the cup?
Damn it. I hate this question. Yeah, because I look back at shows and you go, wow, was I wrong? Oh, yeah. No, they're never going to bring me on again because, that damn bastard picked against my team.
That's not true. We'll have you on as much as you want to be on.
Yeah, just name 8 different teams. We'll edit it later and you'll be right.
One of my friends did that once for a serious show. It was pretty funny. It's like, you listen to the voice, like, that's not mine. Don't worry about it. They won't notice. It's so fast, nobody. I was like, oh, good. You know what? I'm still gonna pick them, and I hope I don't get bit in the rear for this, but I'm still gonna pick Anaheim. I just think that they've learned enough lessons this year, and that Bruce Boudreau has finally sort of figured out, hey, I can't take her with this too much. It's not going to be easy. I think, like I said, Washington's road gets much harder, and so does Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh can get through Washington, Pittsburgh's not going to have an easy time closing out the Rangers, and that series is almost destined to go 6 or 7 unless there's another Rangers injury involved, or 3. Anaheim's just used to slugging through these types of series. Eventually, Pekka Rinne is going to be Pekka Rinne. I mean, Pekka Rinne was very good last night in that. He made a lot of key saves, including one on Corey Perry that I was just like, damn, I wish my goalie was in the playoffs to do that. But you got to think that Anaheim's balance wears down Nashville eventually. Even as much as Philip Forsberg can and will score against Nashville, because it's Philip Forsberg. And then obviously they're going to play LA or San Jose, and that was where my rationale went. I was like, well, San Jose wins a ton on the road, and I think it's enough to win that series. Anaheim stacks up very well against San Jose. I don't know why. It's just sort of like it's like Alpha Jacks and Apple Jacks and Fruit Loops guys. And they just do. And from there, they would probably face Chicago or Dallas. Look, the West is fun. I think you get a little more character coming out of the West. You don't want to say toughness or grit or any of those fun buzzwords. But the bottom line is, you come out of the West, you come out battle-tested enough. You're pretty much ready to win the Cup this year. The East is just sort of a weird animal where it's just right now. If you look, Pittsburgh's best chance of winning the Cup is probably against a team like Dallas. Maybe even Chicago if they're banged up enough. But it's Anaheim's year if they do not stumble, and that's. Yeah, I know I'm saying this. Anaheim's down 1-0, guys, already, but that series, it's not over until the last game.
Right.
Until somebody turns out the lights, that series is not over. If you go back to the last few playoff series between the two of them, it literally has been the case. They don't like each other. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I wish more East Coast people would stay up late for some of these series because it's highly entertaining.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, actually, which is that a lot of the series, even for the Stanley Cup, whoever goes on to win the Stanley Cup, a lot of their first series are tough. I mean, they're not like, Nashville and Chicago. It's like that. For whatever reason, Nashville always gives Chicago fits. And it's like they can get past this series, which is not a team that's great. But I do have a question for you, because it feels like for the last 3,000 years we've been talking about Penguins and Capitals, Ovechkin versus Crosby. So how good is it for hockey, especially serious hockey fans, that, we actually have a probable Eastern Conference winner coming out of this maybe series with the Capitals and Penguins, and we have Ovechkin and Crosby. That's good for hockey, right?
There's no question about it. It's very good for hockey. Of course, it's even better that now you have more diversity spread throughout the league, but it never hurts to have that matchup. I mean, Pittsburgh-Washington matchups since the 80s have been a lot of fun to watch. And mostly it's been one-sided. Yeah, I know. Washington fans just sit there and go, "Oh, Chris, not again. don't go there. Please don't." The history of Washington collapsing in playoff series. I mean, there's shirts about it. Washington, nothing collapses better since 1985. But this is the best shot that Washington has right now. Is this year. This is their best shot by far and away. They have the players. They have guys that have been in 7-game wars like Justin Williams, obviously. They have a guy that's dynamite in overtime in TJ Oshie. They have up-and-coming guys, too. Let's be honest. I mean, this Evgeny Kuznetsov is so much fun to watch. My only concern with the guy is he does really try to make a highlight film out of every shift.
Yes, he does.
You know what? In the playoffs, sometimes that works really well. Unlike previous years, facing Pittsburgh means you're probably going to see a little more. You're going to see a lot of offensive pace and a lot of puck possession, which Washington will have to find a way to combat somehow, and they haven't in the last couple of meetings. Brayton Holtby has to outplay Marc-Andre Fleury. Fleury, I presume, will eventually play. He's a game-time decision still today. It hasn't been cleared by the doctors actually to play as of just a few minutes ago. I mean, that matchup is people will say, oh, it's Pittsburgh-Washington again, but you know what? It's really good. Mm-hmm. And whoever does come out of that probably, we think, will face Tampa, and that will be its own. I mean, the playoffs this year there's no one dominant team, guys. And that's great. I mean, and it's not, for once, it's not a bad kind of parity. It's a good kind of parity, which is rare for the NHL. So that means they'll eventually do something off the ice that screws it up. But in the meantime, you just enjoy the wave of these matchups, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, it's been fantastic as always having you on. Will you let all our millions of cats and some people out there listening to us know where you can be found on the interwebs?
This time of year, it gets a little easier. we can relax a bit, a tiny bit at least. Still writing out there for ProjectRoto.com. The Fantasy Hockey Show is off for the summer. Thank God, it's a lot of work. I'll be doing a little side writing for Dollar Hockey and the new Dump and Chase blog. Don't worry. I'll be around making predictions, and people will just look at they'll look at that damn blasted injury ninja and go, "Oh God, not you again." But don't worry. For fun and even further excitement, the Nightmare Bear will be back to eliminate your teams come the end of their postseason runs. It's a comforting thought, so I won't be going away. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Chris, for being on, and we'd love to have you on again at some point when the NHL playoffs, and hopefully, I'll say this, the Blackhawks are still playing. Maybe they're not, but we'd love to have you on again at some, maybe close to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I appreciate you being on again, and enjoy hockey.
That sounds very good, guys. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks. So, is there anything we missed on the show today? I think I'll say this, Champions League, I kind of own this show in a way, right? Because my teams are all good. And I'm willing to
pretty much.
I'm not going to say that Felix is going up against the Yankees today at 105, and if you're at all a baseball fan and not going to watch Felix in the Bronx against the Yankees, you're an idiot. But I'll say it. But Champions League semis are coming up. There's no Barcelona, which is kind of an interesting thing. So it's Bayern, Atletico, Real Madrid, Man City. I mean, it's Champions League's fun to watch because you get to see some really good teams going against each other. You guys may not be soccer fans, but I'll say that if you can transpose this over to like a North American thing or maybe more of a worldwide, baseball thing, I mean, soccer does a really interesting thing with that continent of Europe where they have Champions League, which is where you have the top 4 teams in each of the major divisions like Bundesliga, Premier League, and so on. They play each other in a tournament that really lasts kind of all year, and then they have the final in May. So how good would it be for baseball? Because we see baseball, as far as the All-Stars going over to play Japanese baseball teams, and a lot of times the All-Stars maybe not care that they're there, but they get beat by these Japanese teams. Would it be cool to see something like that in baseball where you have like the top 2 or 3 teams in Major League Baseball take on the top 2 or 3 teams in Korea and Japan? Would that be fun for you guys?
When are you going to do it?
Well, you would do it. You could do it in spring training if you wanted. I mean, these teams, the way soccer schedules it obviously is during the season. That's never going to happen in baseball because there's just the collective bargaining agreements and all that stuff. But, you could do it as part of spring training. You could put your team, or you could do it, I don't know, you could do it in November. But just not even like realistically thinking, conceptually thinking, would you enjoy watching something like that?
Of course.
Oh, yeah. I'd love it. It would be awesome. I think it'd be a lot better than the World Baseball Congress thing to do. But unfortunately, like you said, it's never going to happen. I mean, just like it would be so, like we've said, it'd be so awesome if they still did the superstars, and they're never going to do that because of contracts. And it's. I think it would wind up being similar to. I don't know. Actually, baseball teams, they seem to enjoy these offshore excursions more than the NFL teams do. So maybe they would play in November. I mean, it's such a long season, but maybe they would. Other than the contract and blah, blah, blah. But, as far as just enjoying it as a thought process, as an experiment, as something that will never, ever, 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 ever happen in our lives because, as Ted meaningfully pointed out, in just a few years, the Yankees will be paying $800 million to one player. So, it's not going to happen. But, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic to see, like you said, the top 4 teams from the U.S., the top 4 teams from Japan, from Korea. I don't know if you just want to say Cuba or just Latin America in general. That would be sweet. And no one from Europe would play because, whatever.
No, but there'd be good enough teams to. I mean, it would be interesting. It doesn't even have to be necessarily the top 4. It could be the top 3.
No. No, the top 4. Has to be the top 4.
Well, both baseball's trying to grow its brand and hockey's trying to grow its brand. It would be cool for hockey, right? I mean, you have all these really good hockey leagues that we got through talking about hockey with Chris Wassel. Yeah.
Hockey would be
top
amazing.
4 NHL.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that would be fun because there are quality players everywhere you go. And, of course, with hockey, you have to figure out rink size. But baseball, it's like Bad News Bears. It's like, they're out there. Let them play kind of thing. I don't know. It's
It would be fun.
It'd be fun to watch. So, any final thoughts?
We're really not going to talk politics. We're really not going to talk politics.
We did. We hit on politics. We hit on politics just a
Not enough. Not enough.
But do we really want to?
Hillary's comments during the debate. It's like, and I will vote for Hillary if she gets the nomination. But
general election.
This is why some people don't like Hillary, because they're talking about the minimum wage, and Bernie, of course, supports $15, and she's saying, well, I support it. And then when he presses her for an answer, well, what I support is $12, and then the states that wish to move up and can afford to move up to $15, they'll do that. And I was like, well, that's not supporting $15. Just say it. There's nothing wrong with saying, I support $12. Don't say, yes, I do support what you say, and then double back. She does that too much. Just say what you mean.
I believe what Bernie actually said was this.
If you want to start that conversation, you can go ahead, shoot.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. The debates are look. I lean left. Anybody who listens to the show, and we've done this show or a part of this kind of show for 5 years now. If anybody listens to us, they know I lean far to the left.
Communist.
Well, it's funny. It reminds me of the Tony Bruno, Andrew Siciliano show where they used to say racist all the time. It was like funny. But anyway, no. The thing I liked about the Democratic debates early is that they kept it civil, and then now that Bernie's Bernie's still nowhere near during the nomination just because of all the superdelegates. But now that he's been winning a lot lately, it seems to be a little bit more friction involved, and I don't like that because I think that is Bernie going to get the nomination? No, Hillary's going to get the nomination, and it would behoove the Democrats to. And I'm not saying Bernie drop out, because I love that he's involved and that he's winning the states and he's going to have a say in the convention. But I think it behooves the Democrats, as opposed to the Republicans, who are infighting like they're inbred, which they probably are. But it behooves the Democrats to be civil with each other because they're not tearing each other apart from the base. Oh, well, you know what? I like Bernie a lot, which I do like Bernie a lot. I wouldn't vote for Hillary. I would still vote for Hillary if she were the nominee. Whereas some Republicans are out there like, you know what? If Trump gets to be the nomination, I'm just not voting. Great. Good. Don't vote. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't want to see this friction as far as we all vote Democratic. And Ted, I don't know if you have a take on this, but to me it bothers me when Democrats start kind of fighting with each other. You can have a difference of opinion, but don't start kind of going down that Republican road. What do you think, Ted?
I don't have a take on this.
Oh, well. That's cool, because I guess I should have started it with the...
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Listen.
Ted is avoiding contentious debate.
There's no chance Bernie wins, but Bernie is nipping at her heels. He's allowing you to see even more chinks in the armor. And the fact of the matter is, African Americans support Hillary. Well, in this situation, with it being in New York, I've never heard so many prominent African Americans come out and support Bernie.
Right.
It's kind of, you like to say, I guess from Hillary's perspective, it's a slap in the face. But no, it's not. It's not at all. In this case, in this primary, this is how people feel.
Right.
Of course, general election, everyone's going to have the I'm with her push pins on and, totally going against whomever is the, candidate on the other side. Chances are it will be Trump, but, I was hoping it was going to be Paul Ryan, because I think that would have really ratcheted things up. But with him saying, he doesn't want to be Frank Underwood.
Hey, Ted, sorry to interrupt you for just a second. I'm not a Paul Ryan fan, but I did like the way I don't want to be the nominee. I have no interest in being the nominee. It was like,
right.
I don't like him, but at least he was clear as far as I am no way involved in this whatsoever. I don't even bring my name into it. So.
Right. I like that, but I would prefer if he was the nominee, because then you know what, you'd have Trump makes it too easy for the Democrats. And I think, being a Democrat my whole life, it doesn't need to be a walk in the park. It doesn't need to be some landslide type victory with the last two, victories for the Democrats. I think they need to fight, they need to crawl, they need to do the right things, because right now these two parties are looking so alike. Not the candidates themselves, the parties. And the fact that they can't work together is effing screwing us, the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
No one cares about it. No one cares about it. We sit here and, we have a program where we can express our concerns, but if you look at the larger goal, they're screwing with us. No matter if it's Democrat or Republican, because we put them in office by voting or not voting. And what are they doing for us? So I think we need to hold their feet to the fire even more, and that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I'll say this. It seems like, and this happens because you try to get the majority of the moderates to vote for you in a presidential election, and that's how you win. But then when it gets to be you're the president, you don't have any power because you have all these people who have run it locally, or states like Tennessee where we're going to have just Republicans out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Todd, you know Haslam is our governor, and Haslam he's almost having to be the opposite way of most people in the state at this point, because this week the state of Tennessee, the Senate said, the Bible should be our state book, which is unconstitutional. So Haslam, and as he's had to do several times lately, has over the last year or two, had vetoed it. He's only had 5 vetoes in 4 years. He chose to veto this because it's unconstitutional, and the Attorney General says it's unconstitutional. And it's almost like he's got to be thinking, look, I'm definitely Republican, but am I the only person who has read the Constitution? Am I the only person who has any sense of common sense at this point? But there's a lot of states like that, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's the only adult in the room. And, and like you were saying, Ted, the good thing about Bernie Sanders, one of the good things, is that he is forcing the discussion more towards the progressive thing by staying in. Well, actually, we're forcing the discussion by voting for him in primaries, which allows him to stay in the race, which is a great thing, which kind of gives me hope that, maybe things will move a little bit more towards, hey, let's take care of people. I mean, there was a great article about it. I can't remember the name of the person. I'm not going to give him a free plug anyway. But it said that, hey, there is a moderate Republican running for president this year. It's Hillary Clinton. And, that's about the truth. Like you said, the two parties, they like to think they're pretty different. But, looking at how parties are different worldwide, until the Tea Party got with, their insane motivations with, like the Tennessee legislature deciding, the Bible should be our official book, idiocy like that. Other than the weird fringe, which sadly is taking over some states, they really aren't that different. So it's been a huge boon to everybody, whether they believe it or not, that Bernie Sanders is in there and pushes the discussion to, hey, we should have $15. And Hillary has to say, well, okay, maybe. And otherwise, who knows if she would even support 12. So, he's been a tremendous boost to everybody.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Right, and it's been said about Bernie, and I've been a Bernie fan for a long time, long before I thought he would ever even contemplate running for president. Yeah. And even when he joined, you kind of hinted at it, Todd. Even before he joined, it was more like he's joining so he can push the discussion a little bit to the left just for Hillary, who we know is going to get the nomination. But I'm curious about this because Ted brought this up as far as the African American vote, which it could be important in the South if we get enough people to turn out to vote at all.
Right.
But are they voting because it's Hillary and for whatever reason the African American vote tends to go toward her way, or are they voting because she's married to Bill, and Bill got a bunch of the African American vote? Are they vote? And I don't mean to dismiss the African American vote, but I'm just wondering if, hey, you know what? She's married to Bill. Bill was great. He was a great president. People don't like him because whatever. It's like Dave Chappelle said, I never want to be famous enough where if somebody gives me a blowjob, they become famous, and that's kind of what happened. But Bill, as a president, was extremely effective, and I think he did a lot of good things. I'm a big Bill Clinton fan, but are they voting, do you feel like, and this goes to both of you, obviously, do you feel like the African American vote is tending more towards Hillary because of Bill or because of Hillary?
I'd like to think the African American vote is happening because more people are becoming educated, and more people are not just saying, hey, I'm going with the Democrat, or hey, I'm going with Hillary because of XYZ. I still have to say we have to pull it back and really look and see, does this person's goals align with mine? Are they going to help me and my family when we try to go and get, the things that matter today? So many, it's polarizing on Facebook nowadays, watching people talk about, the Affordable Health Care Act, or now we're talking about free education for public universities. Do we want people to die in the street? Do we want people to not have education where it's being offered? I'm not saying private institutions, and I'm totally off the rails on this question because of what you asked. I think it's going to go back to African Americans align themselves with being Democrats, period. So hence, they will, the Clinton name is prominent for what Bill did in the past, and all the things that he did in the past weren't great, but for the most part, they did help African Americans. So they're going to lean towards name recognition.
Good. That's well thought out and an excellent point, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's hard for me to say since I'm not part of the community, but
yes, you are.
Yeah, I think a lot honorary, especially if I get up today and tan.
Actually, Todd says this. He goes to a group where it's predominantly African American, and that's what he says.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Basically, that's it.
I think a lot of it probably is holdover from the unofficial first black president, Bill Clinton, because he was the first one in a long time who actually paid attention to the African American community.
I thought that was Van Buren.
Willie Van Buren? Or is that Van Halen?
Martin Van Buren?
Yeah.
Martin Van Buren. Ted knows its history. Todd was like, I don't know who Van Buren is. That's that.
I totally know. But play bass for the team. I think part of it probably is holdover from Bill, and I would hope a lot of it is just, hey, because they like what Hillary said. Hillary says and has done, I shouldn't just say she said, she's done a lot of terrific things for a lot of people, not just the African American community, obviously, but that's part of the United States. In case you were unaware of that, Lee, I just want to let you know that. So,
I'm sorry, did you mention Guam? Is it Guam?
The African Guam community. One thing with Hillary, though, I was just flipping through some stuff, and people are saying they want her to show her real side, and one of her supporters says, she needs to do this more often. She needs to go to a bar, have her drink a beer. It's like, absolutely not. She needs to stop. She needs to stop this, as they say, charm offensive. Stop that bullshit. Be yourself.
Yeah.
If she would normally do that, fine. But I remember her campaign in 2008, and she's out hoisting. She looked like she never held a glass before in her life. I was like, don't do this shit. That's abandon the vote of the people who want the president they want to go have a beer with, and go after the people who want someone who's smarter than they are, and who knows how to deal with problems. Be yourself. If part of yourself is going and playing shuffleboard or, whatever, playing dominoes, fine, do that. If you're comfortable doing that, if you can look comfortable, do that. But by God, be yourself. Be authentic. People, that's one reason why people are going towards Trump, not because he's authentic. He's the biggest bag of fake crap there ever was. But they think he's authentic because he plays that so well. They think he's really angry about all these things. And so people like authenticity. That's why people like Bernie, in addition to what he says, because when he says something, he means it because he's been saying that for 30 years, 26 years, whatever.
Right.
So be authentic. Just come right out and say, don't get your way around to the answer of what you really mean. Just say it. Say it up front. And stop, riding the damn subway and having, just do what you need to do. Act like you're a former Secretary of State and a senator. Don't act like you used to be a plumber or whatever her next stunt is. Be presidential.
Yep.
Be presidential.
Hey, she went down 2 stops of the subway. 2 stops.
2 stops.
Don't be everybody's barfly buddy. Be president.
Hey, I do want to say this. As much as people wanted to crack jokes on her swiping the Metro card 5 times, dude, I swipe it 3 or 4 times every day. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. From my days on Metro Rail in Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah. Those things hardly ever work, yeah. So it's not that she didn't know how to use this. How often do you have those cards when you're trying to check into your, well, Ted can't do it anymore, but some of us still step out. You go to the motel and you swipe the card and it's like, son of a bitch, I have to go back down because this one didn't work. So no shock. No shock that it didn't work.
It's funny you mentioned D.C. because that's when Ted said that. Because I used to spend all my summers in Alexandria, and we used to ride the Metro all the time. That's exactly what I thought. The funny thing is that there was some pushback on Bernie for not using for trying to use a token. The guy's from Brooklyn. Okay, he hasn't lived in Brooklyn for a long time, so that just goes to show he used to remember how it was. That's not like well, I don't know how New York works. Like the guy lives in Vermont. I mean, this is a guy who, again, he went from Brooklyn, he went to Chicago. This guy got arrested during a civil rights demonstration.
Yes.
I mean, this guy has always lived it. It's not just him being elected; he's lived it. So
this guy marched for Dr. King.
Yeah.
Come on.
And he still had the same hair. Still had the same hair when he did that.
Look up old school.
Hey,
and it's a picture of him.
Hey, what I didn't want to forget. What about Trump shouting out and being in Pittsburgh and shouting out Joe Paterno?
I didn't hear that. I mean, I missed it. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I totally missed that. What happened with that?
He shouted out Joe Paterno, and people were like, "Okay, you dunce. He's dead."
Wow.
Saying we need to bring Joe Pa back.
Did he have a clinic for 10-year-old boys while he was at it? Wow, what a tool he is! What a freaking tool! Oh my God.
Well, actually, it's funny. We weren't going to talk politics, and I think we almost turned that into a podcast unto itself for the last 20 minutes. So, but that's our show. We'd like to thank Chris Wassel of Project Roto and lots of places. He mentioned that the fantasy hockey show he hosts is which makes sense. It's off until next season because you can't have fantasy hockey while you're in the playoffs. So Chris is always great, really knowledgeable about the NHL, and we'd like to thank everybody who listens. We have Ted. Ted is
yes, sir.
I don't know, way in the studio, but Ted, do you have a late night as Ted approaches the 18th hole? We're going to try to talk with Ted. It's just 7 bogeyed the whatever that is. Anyway, do you have a show on Late Night Parent Live Wednesday? What's happening?
Yes, we're right now. I'm just going to be talking with one guest. The guest is going to be talking about online dating security because this is a situation we had that's been reported all over, but up here where the lady was dismembered. She went on a dating site, went out with someone, and was dismembered, and body parts are being found all over. And they caught the person, but we're going to talk with an international online dating expert is going to help us, those parents that are divorced or single and looking to do, get back out there. Best ways to stay safe in the dating world. That's going to be on this Wednesday.
Okay. And then, that's horrible. I hadn't heard that story. And then next Saturday, of course, we'll be right back live with Baseball Beer and BBQ at 10 a.m. I don't think there's a Cinema Savant show. Actually, we have Danny's show, right? Danny's show is coming up on. I'm laughing because Ted mutes himself, and I forced him to unmute himself. So Danny has a show that is coming up on Thursday. Is it Thursday night that he's doing NBA radio?
Thursday night, NBA Full Court Press is, in theory, coming back to the Happy Hour Network.
In theory?
In theory, it's coming back.
Okay.
I mean, it's physically it'll be back on Thursday, but right now it's just figuratively.
Well, it's a great.
And hopefully.
Sorry, go ahead.
Say it again.
I was going to say, hopefully you are ready for Cinema Savants on the 25th, Lee, to go to a bi-weekly schedule.
I am, and actually we may be able to do one this week. My wife is traveling, so we may actually be able to work out something this week.
Okay,
and
cool.
we'll talk about that later. Post-pro. But anyway, for those, again, everybody who reruns the show, thank you for doing that. Thank you for everybody who listens, our millions of listeners. And don't be an idiot. Watch Felix against the Yankees today at 105. It's worth it. And speaking of Felix, this is our outro.
The fans hoping to catch a little bit of the old-time religion right here, baby. With Junior stepping up to the plate. Here comes the stretch. And the pitch to Junior on the way. Swing and a fly ball. It's a deep right center field. That baby is going to be fly away. The old-time religion lives. Junior does it. A